They thought they were hunting just an ordinary kid. Two white officers, sirens, screams, classic. But what they didn't know was that Jamal knew these streets better than they knew their own fears. And that night, it would become a lesson they'd never forget. The only question is, are they ready to pay for it? It was one of those nights where the air felt heavier than usual, like something was about to go down. The streetlights flickered along the cracked sidewalks of East Boston, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch endlessly. 17-year-old Jamal Harper adjusted the strap of his worn-out backpack and pulled his hoodie tighter around his face. He had just left band practice at Lincoln High and was heading home, minding his own business. The city was quiet, almost too quiet. Suddenly, the sharp screech of tires cut through the silence. Blue and red lights exploded behind him, painting the brick walls of the alley in harsh, blinking colors. Jamal's heart skipped a beat. Two cops, Officer Murphy and Officer Hayes, leapt out of their cruiser like they were starring in some low-budget action movie. "Hey, you! Hands where I can see 'em!" Murphy barked, his hand already on his holster. Jamal blinked, confused. "Wait, what? For what?" Hayes narrowed his eyes. "Don't play dumb, kid. Hands up." Jamal froze for a second. His mind raced. Is this really happening? He hadn't done anything wrong. Not tonight, not ever. But the fear was real, creeping up his spine like ice water. And then it hit him. They don't care if I did something or not. Without another thought, Jamal turned on his heel and bolted. "Oh, great! Now he's running!" Murphy snapped, sprinting after him. Hayes was right behind, huffing like he hadn't run a mile since high school. Jamal's sneakers pounded against the pavement. His lungs burned, but adrenaline drowned out the pain. He darted through narrow alleys, leaped over trash cans, and slipped through fences. He knew these streets like the back of his hand, but tonight it felt like the walls were closing in. Murphy's voice echoed behind him, furious and out of breath. "Stop running, kid. This ain't gonna end well for you." "Yeah, no kidding," Jamal thought bitterly. He cut a sharp turn into an alley he barely fit through, heart hammering in his chest. Somewhere in the distance, he heard Murphy talking into his radio. "Suspect is fleeing on foot. African-American male, dark hoodie, blue jeans. Get back up over here now." Jamal cursed under his breath. Back up? Seriously? For me? His legs burned, but stopping wasn't an option. He needed to think, and fast. The city suddenly felt different. Those familiar streets and shortcuts now seemed like a maze, a trap he couldn't escape. He spotted an old, rusty fire escape ladder dangling just a few feet above him. Without hesitating, he jumped, grabbed the cold metal, and hauled himself up. Climbing higher, Jamal peeked down. Murphy and Hayes skidded into the alley, panting and frustrated. Hayes kicked a trash can in anger. Where the heck did he go? Murphy scanned the darkness. Keep moving. He can't be far. Up on the rooftop, Jamal crouched low, catching his breath. His mind was racing. Why are they after me? He hadn't stolen anything. No fights, no trouble. Just wrong place, wrong time, or maybe just the wrong skin color. His grip tightened on the edge of the building. Somewhere deep down, a spark of anger started to flicker. He wasn't just running from these guys anymore. He was running from something bigger, something that had been chasing him his whole life. The game of cat and mouse had just begun, and Jamal wasn't about to lose. Jamal crouched on the rooftop, his breath visible in the cold night air. His chest heaved, every heartbeat pounding in his ears. He could hear the officers below, their frustrated voices echoing off the brick walls. "Okay, think, man. Think." He scanned the surrounding rooftops and spotted a narrow alley a few buildings over, but climbing down was too risky. Then his eyes locked onto a small, rusted metal door on the rooftop, half hidden behind a pile of old wooden crates. Without wasting a second, Jamal sprinted to the door and yanked it open. The rusty hinges let out a long, groaning creak that made him wince. Yeah, subtle, he thought, but there was no turning back now. The door led to a dark, narrow staircase spiraling downward. The air inside was thick with dust and the scent of old metal. Jamal crept down, careful not to make a sound. Each step echoed softly, and the only light came from the faint glow of the city filtering through cracks in the walls. Finally, he reached the bottom. It opened into what looked like an abandoned storage room. Shelves lined with empty boxes, broken furniture, and cobwebs stretched across the ceiling. But then, something caught his eye. An old man, sitting in the corner, hunched over a small lantern. The man slowly looked up. His face was weathered, dark eyes sharp under a knit cap. "You ain't from around here, huh?" the man rasped. Jamal hesitated, backing up slightly. "Look, man, I ain't trying to cause trouble, just hiding." The old man chuckled softly. "Trouble's already found you, boy. But you're in luck. I know these tunnels better than they know their own streets." Jamal blinked. "Tunnels?" The man nodded, motioning to a shadowy corner where a metal grate covered an opening in the wall. "They built this city on secrets, and secrets have ways of keeping folks like you safe. Name's Walter. You coming or what?" Jamal didn't have time to argue. He followed Walter as the old man pried the grate open and disappeared into the darkness. Behind them, faint footsteps echoed above. The chase wasn't over, not by a long shot, and Jamal was starting to realize this was bigger than just a couple of angry cops. The tunnel was darker than Jamal expected. The damp air clung to his skin, and every step echoed in the narrow space. Walter moved with surprising agility for his age, weaving through the shadows like he was born there. "Man, where does this even lead?" Jamal whispered, trying to keep up. Walter shot him a look over his shoulder. "To safety, or at least safer than up there. Now keep your voice down." They navigated through twists and turns until they reached a rusted metal door. Walter paused, placing his hand gently on it. This is where it gets tricky. You ready to see something that'll make you question everything?" Jamal swallowed hard, but nodded. Walter pushed the door open, revealing a hidden room filled with old photos, newspaper clippings, and faded protest signs. Faces of men and women stared back at Jamal, some smiling, others defiant. "This is the history they don't put in textbooks," Walter muttered. "Every scar this city has tried to hide is right here, and those officers, they're just another chapter in a story that started long before you and me." Jamal stared at the images, realization dawning. This wasn't just about him anymore. Walter's eyes narrowed. "Now, you gonna keep running, or you gonna make them remember why they should be scared of the truth?" And for the first time that night, Jamal felt something stronger than fear. He felt purpose. What would you do if you were in Jamal's place? Would you run or try to explain yourself? What are your thoughts on this situation? Share your opinions in the comments. Maybe your friends or someone you know have been through something similar. Tell us about it. Don't forget to like this post if this story made you think, and share it so more people can become aware of this issue. This story was created with good intentions to highlight an important social problem and make the world a better place. Your opinion matters.